Welcome everyone. Just in case you don't know me, hi, I'm John Luther. I'm the one who sends you email every Friday that starts out with "Hi peeps." So great to see you all. We are going to get started and talk about internship and job search. And the reality is there isn't a huge difference, interestingly enough, um, between internship searching and job searching. It really is pretty much the same type of things that you want to keep in mind. So let me just get rolling here. Ba, 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 ba. As soon as this button lets me go, yep, should work. Okay. So, um, Getting started sometimes is the hardest part. And the very first thing that you need to do to get started is to actually decide what it is that you want to do, because purpose defines pretty much everything that follows. And especially with an internship search, I think sometimes part of getting an internship is to better decide what you want to do, but you still at least have to have some idea of what the purpose is. You definitely want to research the field or profession that's interesting to you, and you want to find people who do it, and we'll talk about networking, obviously. Um, Effective materials is really key, and we'll talk quite a bit about that. Targeting, again, that's going to come out of your research so that you have an idea of where you want to be, what you want to be doing, who you need to be in touch with. And then, of course, I am a broken record all around networking. So if you need help with networking, obviously, I'm going to give you some tips on that, but I'm happy to help. So decision making, like I said before, is the key because it dictates everything else. The way that you want to think about this is purpose equals relevance, which then increases effectiveness. One of the things that you really want to consider sometimes is, in fact, geographic location. If you don't have transportation, then that could really dictate where you want to be. It could be the field that you want to go into is really centralized in particular geographic locations. Um, Generalizations are okay, but remember, you're always adapting your materials and the way that you're thinking toward a specific purpose. I will also say that apprehension in any kind of internship or job search is totally normal. So it's okay to experience what you're experiencing. I'm here to hopefully put your mind at ease and to give you feedback. And then the last thing around decision making is following your purpose and your passion. And what I mean by this is you'll often hear people say, do what you love or follow your passion. And I think that that's true to an extent, but I also think it's really important to start to think about what is your purpose? What are you going for? And that could be, storytelling, and there's lots of different ways to tell stories. That could be social justice. That could be exploring, equity. That could be a lot of different things. But recognizing purpose and how that goes together with passion, I think, is really key when you're making decisions. So research. The web is great, but it's only a start. Once you've discovered something that you're really interested in and you want to learn more about, you want to find people who do what you want to do. And LinkedIn is your friend here because LinkedIn was created specifically for professional networking and finding people that you can talk to and explore and do informational interviews. If you're not comfortable with LinkedIn or familiar with LinkedIn, there's a whole section in the Career Canvas site in the links category around career assistance that is really dedicated to using LinkedIn. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn 24/7. So I'm happy to meet with you and talk to you about effective ways to use LinkedIn for networking. And then every time that you speak to someone, you are actually increasing your network. I think sometimes students think of networking as this thing that happens over to the side, when in fact it's something that we do every single day when we're interacting with people and talking with people. These people have the potential to all become part of a network that you can be in touch with over time. So, preparing effective materials. Again, the reminder, purpose, relevance, and effectiveness. The types of materials that you're preparing for an internship or job search, typically resume, possibly plural, resumes, portfolio, possibly plural, portfolios, cards and leave behinds, obviously. Um, then communications, that's your messaging that you're doing with people, whether that's through um, email or through your own sort of social media presence, but being effective and being purposeful with your communications is what's going to make for things to be more effective. So let's talk a bit about resumes. You'll have at least two. And what I mean by this is you'll have your master sort of resume that has lots and lots of stuff on it, but then you have the resume that you're actually submitting for a specific opportunity. And that needs to be adapted and tailored toward that opportunity. You want to make sure that it's as relevant as possible for the recipient. So remember, purpose, relevance, effectiveness. You also want to make sure that it's clear, concise, and clean. Make sure it's well designed. And again, design is subjective and it's not about what's right or wrong, it's about what's most effective. And then also on a resume, you want to show, don't tell. So, what I mean by that is anybody in a skills section can say, I have communication skills or leadership skills or organizational skills. But what you really want to do with those types of skills is incorporate them into the descriptions of what you've done. You're demonstrating your communication skills, you're demonstrating your organizational skills. So these are things to really think about to make sure that your resume is the most effective that it can be. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, and many really large organizations use an ATS, which means that an algorithm is looking at your resume before a human being does. Um, they're not all the same. So sometimes, although they've gotten much better over time, like most of them now can read a PDF no matter what. But if you have a way to reach out to somebody and make sure that the format that you're using is readable by the ATS is really helpful. Always keep your resume more simple when you know it's going for an ATS, because the ATS a lot of the time kind of gets tripped up by too much imagery or graphics or something like that. So again, keeping things clean is really helpful. Use LinkedIn before you submit a resume and then after. And what I mean by this is if you're applying for an internship or a job at a place like Leo Burnett, you want to be in touch with somebody who's at Leo Burnett, hopefully an alum, that you can talk to and they can look at what you're submitting even before you submit to give you some expert feedback, some insider feedback. And then afterward, after you've submitted, follow up with that person, say, hey, thank you so much. I incorporated the suggestions you made, just wanted to give you a heads up that I've submitted my application or submitted my resume. And that way, hopefully, you won't fall into the black hole of HR. Some last words about resumes in general. CV, which is short for curriculum vitae, is not really the same as a resume, and sometimes you'll hear people use the term CV and resume interchangeably, but actually they are quite different. So curriculum vitae is Latin for list of life. That's everything you've ever done. It can be multiple pages. Resumes generally for undergraduate students are single-page documents toward a specific purpose. So you're really thinking about what's most relevant to the recipient. I know it probably should go without saying, but check your spelling, have your friends check your spelling. Um, no personal pronouns. Personal pronouns in resume writing are implied. So instead of you saying I designed, you would simply start with the verb designed. Instead of saying I managed, you would simply start with the verb managed. So again, personal pronouns in resume writing are implied. Taking risks, like lots of crazy stuff on a resume, um, that can be okay for some things in life. But a lot of the time with resume writing, you really just want to keep it clean and concise, very readable, very seeable. Let your portfolio speak for itself. Let your portfolio demonstrate all of your wonderful, crazy design skills, and let your resume be a much cleaner document. And then there's also cultural context. And what I mean by this is in the United States, we have certain expectations about what resumes are and what they look like, but other cultures can sometimes have very different expectations. So if you're applying for something in another country, you might want to be thinking about what are their expectations, how are they different from the expectations in the United States. And then the last word I'll say about actually all materials to make them the most effective is the rule of five. And what I mean by this is you want to show your materials to five people. You want two people like me who look at materials all the time. We look at resumes every day and portfolios every day. So we have an informed opinion. You want two people who are insiders, those experts, those people that you can find on LinkedIn, those alums who can be really helpful because they have inside information. They know, oh yeah, this is exactly what we would be looking for, or maybe you don't want to keep this, or maybe you want to change that. So you have two people who have informed opinions, two people who have more expert opinion, and then the fifth person is what I call the blank slate. And this person could have lots of expertise or zero expertise. This isn't the reason you have this person. You have this fifth person because you just know they're going to be completely blunt with you. They're going to tell you exactly what they think. And so if you get 4 out of 5 people to respond the way that you intend, that's an 80% effectiveness. Now, if you show your stuff to 5 people and you get 5 completely different responses, that's a 0% effectiveness. So again, showing your work to 5 people lets you have a sense of just how effective you're being and can make you feel much better before you hit send. So more around effective materials, let's talk about portfolios. Online versus a presentation portfolio. And what I mean by this is I honestly believe everybody should have a web portfolio, but that may not be exactly the same as a presentation portfolio. So maybe you got an interview with an organization based on your online portfolio, and then if they want to follow up with you, you might want to prepare a presentation portfolio and use whatever presentation software works well for you. Could be PDF, could be Keynote, could be PowerPoint, but you're not just showing them what's on the website. You've put together a presentation that is much more specific to what they hopefully would be looking for. So be aware, it's not always a one-size-fits-all. It's really rare these days that you would ever need a printed portfolio, but there may come a time when you need to actually show something physical, printed, rather than on a screen. So just be aware, even though it's rare, it might come up. Templates for online portfolios are fine. My current go-to is Adobe Portfolio, but there's others out there, Squarespace and Wix and Weebly and all those other ones. And templates are okay unless you're a web designer. As a web designer, you would rather actually design your own website and have it be an example of your web design. Make sure that whatever you're showing in a web portfolio is well categorized. So let's say that the bulk of your work is furniture design, but then you have some other creative work that you've done, make sure that you're not mixing those things all together. Make sure that it's really easy for the person to just go to the furniture design and see those projects. And then you could have another category depending. It could be painting, it could be other creative work, it could be a lot of different things. But you don't want to make somebody look at everything if you know they're not going to be interested in everything. Make it easy for people to find what they're looking for by categorizing. Target toward your audience. And this is really key because, again, what makes something effective is about realizing who your audience is. So your portfolio, a lot of the time, is not necessarily about you as much as it is about what somebody else would be interested in seeing. So again, doing your homework, talking to those 5 people, making sure things are categorized so that the audience can see what's most relevant to them. And obviously get professional feedback, that rule of 5, or whenever you can go to a portfolio review event like AIGA holds every year or IDSA holds every year, getting that feedback so that you feel good about what you're presenting to people, what you're submitting to people. That's going to be really helpful in your own confidence. So there's portfolio resources, obviously. The Stamps Canvas site has handouts on pretty much everything, including portfolio prep and presentation. The link section, like I said earlier, remember that career assistance? There's all kinds of really wonderful things there, and there's a whole category just for portfolio preparation in the link section. So if you're not looking there or you haven't looked there before, take a look, see the helpful sort of resources. So communications. Some people, still ask for cover letters, and a lot of the time in this day and age, if somebody's asking you for a cover letter, they're probably using it as a writing sample. So you want to make sure that you're, again, showing the cover letter to those 5 people or to one of our writing consultants, Ali Shapiro, Jennifer Metzger, and getting feedback, making sure that it's as good as it can be, as effective as it can be. You'll spend a lot of your time writing emails to people. Keep it short. It's always suggested to keep email at 100 words or less. Anything longer than that tends to get diluted around effectiveness. Keep things short and sweet. When you're writing, via email and connecting with people, remind them what your connection is to them. So if you're working with me and you write and say, oh, John Luther recommended I get in touch with you. I'm a student at the STAM school. What is your connection to that person? Be clear on why you're getting in touch. So again, just very straightforward. I'm particularly interested in, and then whatever it is that you are in fact interested in. And then what makes you stand out? This is really, I think, a little bit difficult in the beginning because sometimes students aren't quite sure about, what makes them, you know, unique, or, somebody that somebody would else would want to really respond to. But you want to think about that. And that could be as simple as I've been following you on Instagram. I love the work that you're creating around fill in the blank. If it's not too much trouble, perhaps we could get together and talk about how my work is being influenced by the work that you're doing. So again, just thinking about what is the hook to get this person, hopefully, to want to talk with you. Whenever you can, if you're reaching out to somebody around career-related things and you feel comfortable, attach your resume and give a link to your portfolio right in that email message so that they can see this is the type of work that you're doing, these are the types of experiences you've had, and that can really help them shape their response back to you and setting up a time, hopefully, to speak with you. Cards and leave behinds. So this has become obviously less important during COVID because we've been meeting a lot in person. But eventually this will become, I think, important again. And you really want to have something that you can leave with someone no matter what. Business cards, like old-fashioned white cards that all kind of blend together. You might want to think about something a little more unique than that. Leave behinds are a little bit different than business cards. They can be much more like a postcard or something like that, but something that makes an impression, that is showing your work, that is visually interesting. And you can see my line here. If you use one, make it count. Don't let it just be that bland white card if that isn't going to help you stand out too much. And if you are going to use an image on your business card or a leave behind, make sure it's your best work. Make sure it's something that is really something that you're proud of, and that people will remember you by. So, reminders, purpose, relevance, and effectiveness, and that goes for resumes, portfolios, your communications, and for cards and leave behinds. So let's talk a bit about targeting. I don't mean shopping at Target. I mean like targeting. Like what is it that you want to be doing and where do you want to be doing it? This brings us into what is known as lamping. And this is based on the 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. And this whole idea of lamping is really important because it helps you take charge of your internship or job search. So the L in LAMP stands for list, a list of targeted organizations that you would like to be interning or working with. A stands for alumni. Are there alums, either Stamps alums or University of Michigan alums in general, who are working at this place that's on your list? M stands for motivation, and this one is a little counterintuitive, so we're going to come back to that one in just a minute. And then P stands for postings. Is this organization in a hiring cycle? So a perfect lamp would be they're on your list. There are alums who work there. You're highly motivated, and they're in a hiring cycle. So let's talk about what that would look like in the spreadsheet. So you can see this very first column is the list, yes or no, around are there alums who work there. And remember we said we come back to motivation. Once you start to make a list, you'll realize that you're actually more motivated for one thing over another. So I use a 10-point scale here, but you can use whatever scaling works well for you to gauge your motivation once you start to put this together. And then postings, are they in a hiring cycle? So a perfect lamp would be like what's here with National Geographic. Obviously, they're on your list. There are alums who work there or have worked there in the past, highly motivated at a 10, and yes, they're in a hiring cycle. Why is this important to consider? Because it helps you craft the way that you spend your time in an internship or job search. So if it's a perfect lamp, it's like, yeah, you definitely want to spend time there. But then here's the Sierra Club, not a perfect lamp. They're on the list, there are alums who work there, you're highly motivated, but they're not currently in a hiring cycle. Does that necessarily mean that you shouldn't spend as much time and energy on them? No, not necessarily. This just gives you a way to think about how you're spending time and energy. You might be so excited about the Sierra Club that whether they're in a hiring cycle or not, you're going to do as much digging as you can. You're going to make as many connections as you can so that when they are in a hiring cycle, they'll know about you, they'll think about you. So there's not a right or a wrong, it's just a way to frame the way that you're approaching the search. And then you'll see these other columns. So like when you're reaching out to someone, record the date. When did you reach out? What was the response? Did you follow up? When was that? What was the response? And you can have as many columns in this like lamping as you want. So it could not just be data and response, but it could be notes that you took, it could be your impressions, it could be some way to remember the person you spoke to, more clearly so that the next time you engage, you don't have to go, oh my God, who was that person? But it's really up to you, but this is a way to think about lamping and to take charge of your own internship or job search. So networking is really key, and I've talked about LinkedIn already. really interesting. I don't know if you guys saw it this week in the Michigan Daily. There was an opinion piece on how this particular student hated LinkedIn. And I have to tell you, as somebody who's on LinkedIn all the time and helps students use LinkedIn, all I could think of was like, oh my God, I have to reach out to this student and teach her, the effective way to use LinkedIn and not be so discouraged by how her experience had been. But I didn't do that. I saved that for you guys. But LinkedIn was created specifically for professional networking, so it does take some of that weirdness out of it. Professional associations, you name it, there's probably a professional association for it. And you heard me earlier talk about AIGA and IDSA. So AIGA is the American Institute of Graphic Artists. This is the largest professional association related to visual communication design. And becoming involved with that kind of professional association gives you this instant network of people who share your interest, your passion. You can go to their events, you can get on their newsletter, go to their portfolio review days. But again, it's a whole other way to just gain a network of like-minded people. So all social networks eventually become professional networks. This is actually true, and there's like research that's been done on this. So even though your Instagram network is maybe much more social, when you start to think about, well, wait a minute, who do I know? Who do I follow? These are people you could be getting in touch with around internship and job searching. So don't think that just because you're connected to somebody on a social network that you can't always also ask them. Do you know somebody who does this, or do you know somebody who does that? Okay. Other sites that I think can be really helpful for finding people and for getting yourself out there include Behance, Dribble, Creatively, and there are others. If you want to learn more about these types of sites, just let me know or go to the link section. I'm always happy to talk with you guys around networking. So stamps programming with alums, for those of you who have participated in this fall's programming, like massively. The the people who are presenting and who are on panels, they're alums. They're all very open to hearing from you. So again, that's a whole other way to meet people and gain networks. Friends, family, and the person sitting next to you. Again, networking isn't this thing that's like outside of you. It's this thing that is happening all the time. And I always tell students, the place to start with networking is your peers, your friends, and talking about what are you interested in and who does somebody know, and would you be able to talk with them, and also support. Peers, I find, can be very, very supportive. If you and your friends are all kind of in the same boat and you're all trying to find the same type of opportunities, you can support each other through the process, give each other feedback, give each other a pep talk when you need it. So again, don't discount the people who are closest to you as being part of your network already. And last, but certainly not least, is authenticity. For those of you who went to the networking keynote by Jules Pierre as part of Career Bootcamp, you heard her talk about this, and it's so key. If you think of network as using people, that that isn't really networking. That's something else. When you authentically connect with someone, where it's very genuine, and even in that first time that you meet them, it becomes so much easier to then stay in touch with that person and keep them posted on what you're doing, and vice versa. You're curious about them, you're curious about what they're doing and what their projects are. So, again, I think when we think of networking as something outside of ourselves, it becomes inauthentic. But when we think about it as truly connecting to people in a genuine way, it actually is authentic. It might take a little practice in the beginning to start to feel that way, but I have trust in you guys. So a few words about LinkedIn groups. Um, LinkedIn has lots of different groups based on interest, and it's a pretty easy way again, just like those professional associations, to find like-minded people. Like you don't have to go that far to find people who are interested in what you're interested in. And because it's LinkedIn and LinkedIn was created for professional networking, I think it kind of takes some of the weirdness out to join those groups and start to talk to people who are in those groups. So, international study. Obviously, during COVID, we kind of didn't do international study. But hopefully, starting in the winter term, we'll get back on track with international study and international experience. Um, oh, okay. Let me just close out that. There you go. So, because it is a requirement, and hopefully we're going to be doing it again, you want to capitalize on how that prepares you for things like internship and job search. Um, you really need to describe your international experience as just beyond awesome. And what I mean by that is when somebody sees on your resume, oh, you spent a semester in Spain, tell me about that. You do not want to say, it was awesome. I mean, it could be awesome, don't get me wrong. You just don't want to like say that way. You want to go, okay, it was awesome because, or it was just one of the most amazing experiences because and what you learned, what you gained from it, how it's relevant to what it is that you're pursuing. So again, don't discount the importance of your international experience as helping you be qualified for an internship or a job. Transferable skills. If you are doing anything abroad, you are learning to adapt. Think about your first year in college, like where you're adapting to new things basically every week. You're doing the same thing when you're abroad, but you want to be able to talk about that and be able to explain, an experience that you have that demonstrates particular skills that you either used or developed while you were abroad. The STAR technique. So in behavioral interviewing, the STAR technique is you describe the situation, the task or the problem that you've been asked to solve or perform, the actions that you've taken, and then the results. So the STAR technique is from behavioral interviewing, and the idea is past behavior is predictive of future performance. And so, if in your internship and job search you get to an interview and somebody asks you a question that starts with, tell me about a time when, that will tell you immediately this is a behavioral interview question. And you need to describe the situation, the tasks you were asked to do, the actions that you took, and then the results. So, typical, tell me about a time you failed. Tell me about a time that you had to deal with conflict. Tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with, a friend or coworker. So again, a complete answer is using this, and if you can just remember the acronym STAR, it will really help you. So take advantage. Career Bootcamp was just last month in October. UCAN, if you are not familiar with UCAN, this is a service that matches alums and students at the University of Michigan through video and video chat. And this is through the University Career Center, which is open to all students at the University of Michigan. So if you haven't looked into UCAN before, I highly recommend doing something like that. The Empowered Career Fair is every winter term, so especially those of you who are really entrepreneurial, you want to go to an event like that, take advantage of an event like that, whether it's for an internship or a job. The engineering career fairs, plural, because they have several different ones every year, if applicable. I find that most art and design students aren't really a good fit for like hardcore engineering. But engineering organizations that also deal with design, you might want to check some of those out. The university career fairs, um, they have two big ones, one in the fall, one in the winter. So again, I do my best to publicize those to you, take advantage of those. We already talked about AIGA and their portfolio review day. Again, I'll publicize that, so take advantage of those things. The Alumni Association, sometimes students don't realize has a lot of services for students. So if you have never looked at the opportunities and services for students through the Alumni Association, definitely take a look at that. There's some really cool stuff that they do. Obviously, I post to you every week. The career blog, the stuff on the Canvas site. So, take advantage of as much that's around you as you possibly can. Um, so we're going to switch gears a little bit because sometimes artists don't think that, it's like, well, I'm not applying for an internship or I'm not applying for a job, but you kind of are, depending on circumstances. And what I mean by this is effective materials for artists, you want to think in those same ways. What makes for something to be effective? And whether you're applying for a grant or a residency or an exhibition or whatever it happens to be, you're still thinking about effectiveness. Artist resumes, it's true, they are different from other types of resumes, but you still want to think about recipient, you still want to think about effectiveness. Targeting, who does the type of exhibitions that you would be interested in? What types of grants are really related to the type of media that you practice? Um, so again, targeting is key, just like that lamping for any other kind of search. You want to think about that list. You want to think about that targeting. And then networking, of course, is key. Finding artists who are doing what you're doing, whether that's through our alums or finding artists through Creative Capital or some other organization. You really want to learn from people who have gone before you and get great advice. That whole rule of five applies to artists as well. Um, so artist resume, again, a little bit different than other types of resumes, but you still want it to be effective. You also want to think about an artist statement as one of your materials. And some other types of opportunities you wouldn't need that, but there are definitely things in the arts where you need an artist statement. Again, I would work with Ali Shapiro or Jennifer Metzger. Have them look at your artist statement with you, give you feedback. I obviously am totally happy to review artist statements with you guys as well, so feel free to take advantage of me. Your portfolio, again, really key. Is it relevant to the recipients? Is it well categorized? And then, one of the things that sometimes artists have to consider is a day job. If you're not in a place yet where you can make a living completely off of being an artist, what materials do you need to make sure that you're also putting together to apply for something outside of directly, creating your art? So you might have multiple resumes, multiple portfolios, um, that maybe some other people don't have to take into consideration. Um, and again, I'm happy to work with any and all of you individually to look at those materials and what makes something more effective. So networking is very much key for artists, and actually kind of like for all of you, but for artists in particular, get advice from people who do what you want to do. Learn about the business of being an artist because that is something that I don't think is adequately covered in most curricula, including ours, unfortunately. But Creative Capital is a great resource for information on the business of being an artist. The art-specific links in the Canvas section, the Career Canvas page, has some really great links to the business of being an artist, as does the career assistance links. And then from here to there, the series that we sponsor every semester, interviewing relatively recent alums about their journey and how do they get their first gig, I think is really key, not just for artists, but for all of you, to stay in touch, meet these people, hear their stories, hopefully be inspired. And then, of course, Career Boot Camp every year in the fall. Um, we look at, so many of these facets around how to be, somebody who can go into a creative field and hopefully be successful. So take advantage of all of these things. So some reminders before we wrap this up and hopefully any questions that you have. Um, so from here to there with Millicent Wibbert, I just talked about from here to there, and there it is this coming Tuesday. Millicent obviously is an alum, and she has a really interesting studio. They do photography and stop motion animation. So again, I think that's great to tune into. If you haven't RSVP'd for that session, please do so. The winter career programming, yes, I think way ahead, so that's almost ready to go, and I can share it with all of you guys with all the dates and times and who's doing what. So just pay attention to the Friday email that's coming soon. And then we have a couple more sessions this semester, but the majority of what we've done in the fall term has already been recorded and captioned, and it's available now on the Stamps Career YouTube channel. And that was in this morning's Friday email, the link to that. So if you missed that, just go to this morning's email and you can click on that, or feel free to send me an email and say, hey, John, how do I find this? And obviously, I'm happy to send you the link. Okay? So I am going to stop this screen share, and any questions that you guys have, feel free to either drop them into the chat or to unmute yourself, and I'm happy to answer anything and everything I can.
Hi, John.
Hey,
Uh,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So if you're doing more work that's like audio or video based, how do you like leave something behind for someone or kind of like, like what type of visually, like how can you
I
have them remember that?
I absolutely love this question. We had Stephanie Nestorak, with the panel on effective materials. She does motion graphics. So obviously, anything time-based is a bit different. If you are doing a leave behind, the chances are really good that you showed something. And so if some of the sound related work that you showed also came with a really memorable image, make sure that image is on the business card or leave behind so they associate it with you and what they heard.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
Oh, no problem. Other questions, other concerns?
I have a quick question. Hi, John.
Hi, Yunji.
So when you said that our resume or artist resume should look different from a regular resume, I assume that's a template, I guess, and like how it should be like graphically pleasing.
No, not really. So
Oh,
artist resumes are simply lists. So it's your list of exhibitions, your list of publications, your list of grants or residencies. Um, and artist resumes are very different from other types of resumes. So design resumes would have where did you intern and what were your relevant experiences and what are your skills that you bring and all those types of things. Whereas if you're submitting for an exhibition or a grant or a residency as an artist, they're not necessarily going to be interested in that type of stuff. They're going to be interested in your exhibitions, publications, etc. So if you haven't looked at the difference between artist resumes and other resumes, take a look at the handout on resume writing because there's examples of both.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, no problem. Other questions? Nope. No other questions, you guys?
No, you did a good job. Thanks a lot for this.
I just thought of a question, John.
Thank you, Dallin. What's the question, Lauren?
Hi. Okay, so I'm in a little bit of a predicament. Um, I want to get into, and I probably told you this way before the pandemic, but I want to get into like museums and galleries and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm realizing that I need to be more versed in art history than I am.
Ah.
And I'm thinking about like possibly double majoring, or I don't know, adding more art history classes to my course load. And I'm not sure how advantageous that would be at this point in my academic career. Like, would that be too much right now? Because
You
I'm
know,
trying to get into this specific school and then hopefully into this specific company after that.
yeah, it really depends on, so much of what we learn is not in a classroom. So educating yourself on, because art history is huge. It's so broad.
Yeah.
Geographic location, time frame, all that kind of stuff. Women artists versus men, it's so broad. So
Right.
I think what you want to do is think less about a class is the only way I can learn something, or a major is the only way I can learn something.
Mhm.
And instead, think about, yes, I can take some courses, but if I want to graduate sooner rather than later, I don't want to be in school forever. What can I learn on my own? What's my passion? What book
Okay.
can I be looking at, or what people can I be contacting who can kind of steer me in the right direction? I don't think it's an
Okay.
either or. I think it's very much an and both. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Great to see you, Lauren.
Great to see you.
Other questions today? Nope, everybody's good? All right. You all know how to find me. So, while I gave you all kinds of info you guys are welcome, um, that I think is applicable generally, I think sometimes when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, like, will you take a look at my resume? Will you take a look at my portfolio? When we're really thinking about purpose, relevance, and effectiveness, oh, you're welcome, Shakim. Um, you know, I'm happy to see you guys individually. You all know how to get onto my calendar. But the general info I gave today is pretty much applicable across the board. So if you haven't gotten started on effective materials, definitely do that. If you haven't started to target, definitely do that. If you are not networking, for sure do that, because it's so key in the creative world. And again, I'm always happy to see all of you, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.